I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate. I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate. Good evening, everybody. I am Mia Mason. I am your congressional candidate for Maryland District 1. If you're just joining us, join everybody in this forum. We also have Jennifer Pingley, who is in here. We have the entire Democratic Club of Cecil County. And I think we also have Together We Will joining us. So it is quite the bunch here, along with the African American Democratic Club. So here we are. Here we go. Thank you for joining us. And do keep in mind that questions and answers can be submitted if you actually join the Zoom. If you want to submit any questions, we start here at just a couple minutes, probably less than that. And then here we go. 8 p.m. The questions that you have submitted go to us.
Or you're going to do that?
Well, I'm doing this, so it would be very helpful.
Sure. Okay, sure. So today's session is approximately an hour and 20 minutes. So everybody will be muted coming in, except for those who are speaking. The forum is being recorded. So if anybody's not comfortable with being recorded, you're welcome to the meeting at this time. Video recording of this forum will be posted on the Cecil County Dem Club website.
And we have permission to rebroadcast.
Posted on Facebook and shared through the other groups participating today. We would like to acknowledge the members of the media if they're here. I'm not sure if anybody's in from the media at this point. We'll be beginning the video recording in just a minute with the first speaker.
Okay. Give everyone stand up for and then we'll be ready to begin. Yeah, I think you might have your computer muted on your own, so just when you're ready.
Yeah, it's all unmuted.
We are open and ready to begin. And we are now recording. Good?
It's connected.
Maybe is this on? Do I have to?
It was connected, so that
Okay. That's all.
No, right now we just have to do. Oh, you just check on. That's There's a gentleman speaking. Can you please mute your system? Hey, Bonita, go ahead.
It's a volume up on that. Helen, we can hear you.
Do you hear anything?
Wait, I've muted Helen. Alright, I'm looking for Bonita.
Good evening. I'm Bonita Holland Buchanan, Vice President of the African American Democratic Club. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's District 1 Candidates Forum. Hosting this event is the African American Democratic Club, PWW Together We Will, Cecil County Democratic Club, and Cecil County Democratic Central Committee. Our moderator for the evening is Happy Grace City Councilman Jason Roberts.
There we go. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were muted there.
No, I muted myself to cough, and it wouldn't let me unmute myself. So anyway, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on a Friday evening. Good evening, Mia and Jennifer. Thank you so much for being in attendance, and thank you for Cecil County Dems for putting this together, as well as AA Dems and everybody else that's involved. Right now, I just want to give the candidates a moment to introduce themselves. We'll begin with Jennifer. You'll have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. Just give us a quick down and dirty on who you are and what's caused you to run. And then Mia, if you would just follow her, please. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Pingley. Some faces and names are looking familiar, so some of you already know who I am. For those of you that don't, I'm the nurse who is running to unseat Andy Harris. And mostly that's where I have to stop, especially recently. With his antics at the Open Maryland rally, that's usually where people kind of go, oh, gotcha, and that's all they need to know. I do have a lot of experience in healthcare, and I was able to relay that in advocacy at state and local levels, and then did do an internship down in Washington, D.C., and have been advocating on Capitol Hill ever since. So that's kind of the basics of how I got where I am. A lot of my candidacy, you will see, rotates around health and safety issues. And about 90% of all issues, I can break it down as a nursing problem, and you'll hear me use that a lot, because pretty much nurses are a little bit into everything, and healthcare and all of that, health and safety, that being my forte, it affects all of us in so many different ways. And in my opinion, and in several opinions coming down the road even more, it's going to take a nurse to witch the doctor out of that chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mia, good evening.
Good evening, Jason. Thank you. Good evening to all the Cecil Dems Together We Will out there in Hartford. And of course, you know, the African American Democratic Club. Thank you for having me in so many times. It's wonderful to see everybody here again tonight. As y'all know, I'm a veteran, a friend, and an advocate. I've served for 20 years in our military. I'm looking to be a public servant again because I've served in the Navy, the Army, and the DC National Guard, where I had to fight for my civil rights to make sure that, you know, since before Trump's administration, that I could serve with diversity, honor, courage, commitment. Those are the founding principles of which I've had, and I continue to serve by and live by. That commitment you've seen since August, door to door, to help unseat Harris. So regardless of this pandemic, we seek to remove Representative Harris because he's a member of the Freedom Caucus, an ally to overseas fascism, legal discrimination, and authoritarianism. Together, we can change that by voting him out. It is something that, we need to make sure that we protect our education, our inclusion, our infrastructure, and of course, our healthcare. It is on the battle line, the front line. It is in the Supreme Court right now. And I assure you, it's a yes from me, not a no like Dr. No. That's why I'm also part of a coalition across the entire country. We have 8 other rural Dems just like me fighting to make sure that red districts turn from red to blue together. So we thank you for this opportunity to be with you tonight.
Thank you very much, Mia. Well, ladies, it's an honor to have you here. You are both very well qualified to be in this position for sure. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. I want to let everybody know that's tuning in. If you would like to answer or ask a question, if something pops into your mind during this presentation, please feel free to submit your question in the chat. We ask that you would address directly the specific leader of your group so that they could bring the question forward. But if not, you can just leave it for everyone, and we'll try and get to it if there's time. Ladies, Jennifer, Mia, you don't mind if I call you by your first name? All right, it makes it a lot quicker. So I'll go through a series of questions. You'll each have 2 minutes to answer. We're going to try and stick to kind of a strict 2-minute rule. So I'll just kind of give you an inkling in when you're running down on time. I know that these are often complex issues, and sometimes you want to, run a little over, especially if it's something you're passionate about. Hopefully you are passionate, being that you're running. So again, we'll stick to about our 2-minute rule. We're going to try and get out about 10 questions. If there's time, I have a few more that we can pop in. Otherwise, we'll be kicking it over to the group leaders to see what questions have come in during this presentation. So let's begin. Mia, this question will be directed to you first, and then Jennifer, you will answer after Mia. What qualities do you think define a good leader? Begin.
I've witnessed a lot of bad leaders. To find a good leader is learning from those bad leaders, like Representative Harris and other congressional leaders. And in my military service, I've had to oust those leaders because they've killed people. They've hurt people. They've hurt me as well. And that's why, as a leader, a mentor, a manager of others, I want to make sure that when we're out there on the front lines in these communities, it is something that when you see me as your representation, it is that good leadership that is a Marylander. That is why I came to this state, and I couldn't go home because I couldn't believe what was going on there still after 30 years, 40 years. And here in Maryland, we had that equality. And I found out that after Trump got in, he was seeking to take it away from all of us. So I'm fighting to make sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to you. So as a good leader, this is what it looks like.
Thank you, Mia. Jennifer, same question.
A leader is someone who listens to the people that they represent. I think that is the clear quality that you need to have. Being a nurse, I'm used to being an advocate from an individual person, a family, a group of people on up. And that is the key to being able to understand how to run your government and what representation you should be giving in government. You work for the people, and that's where the power comes from. People who move from this into promoting more personal views that may not be what the people want, that becomes problematic. Currently have someone incumbent who is not doing things that are going against health and safety recommendations, that are pushing against health and safety recommendations. And that's someone who's not listening to his people, and that's disturbing. We actually have a couple of those people, one who happens to be in the #1 seat, our current president, who's doing the same thing, and listening to your people. I grew up in a Republican household, so I like to say that I speak semi-fluent Republican. You're going to need Republicans to vote across the spectrum here to get Congressman Harris out of that seat. And I think being able to kind of speak on their level and being able to kind of unify with the things that we want that are together, listening to what we want as a whole, because there's a lot of stuff that we want together. Focusing on that is, I think, how we do that, and that's a sign of a good leader. Thank you.
Very well said, ladies. Jennifer, this question will come to you first, and then Mia, if you'll answer afterward. What is your approach to fiscal policy? How do you balance spending money on important issues now or recognizing the long-term debt?
Well, you're going to see me use the phrase that this is a nursing problem. Nursing, we're always talking about what's the short-term benefit versus the long-term goal. And when it comes down to fiscal matters, worth getting a treatment now versus getting a treatment later, things along those lines. So that's kind of a balance I'm used to dealing in a very acute situation regularly. One of the things that I run on is a fiscal prudence platform. I believe that we have to take a look at each individual bill and try and pare it down so it's extremely streamlined, take the loopholes out as much as we can so that it has the biggest effect and the intended effect that we are finding sometimes bills that we have to rush through in a pandemic for the greater good. Some people are taking advantage of them. So taking the time to really look at it, ask some people's opinions about, okay, if you were trying to look for a loophole, where would you find one? And really being able to slow down processing, getting bills ahead of time that we can do that with. Sometimes you see parties trying to rush things through that may be a little inappropriate, that maybe would have done better if we took some more time with it. Of course, some of the problems we're having in the pandemic currently are because there's an urgent need, so we're going to find more of those. But for the most part, it's really taking that fine-tooth comb and making sure that what we are spending is going to give us the long-term benefit we need. We shouldn't be shortchanging the long-term benefits for a short-term profit. Thank you.
Yeah, same question.
Well, we have to control the Treasury. We have to control the Federal Reserve. We cannot allow the Republicans to print the problem away. It is something that, as everybody, it has to go through bipartisanship. We have printed over $21 trillion for what we call QE4, which is basically from 2008 through basically 2015. We've had 3 cycles of the Fed printing money to cover Wall Street and bankers and their failures. So to be fiscally responsible, it is holding them accountable, making sure that if a bank fails, it is done responsibly, and we, the people, aren't held for those debts. Because right now, our government is buying up junk from companies, and we're the ones hurt for it. Contracts for PPE, masks, and everything else for $6 to $20 million and getting nothing. The ships are stuck out to sea. The trains are on the sidelines. The freight trucks are stuck on the highways because people are leaving their jobs because they're scared of a pandemic. We can't supply this country, and we can't just print the problem away. These bills have been in office for over a year. People voted against them. We got them through. The president signed it because we actually had this crisis happen. We cannot have this happen again. When a bill goes through, it cannot go to the Senate and just sit there and die. We wrote the bills for a reason. We have to get them pushed through.
Thank you so far, ladies. You are definitely keeping to the 2-minute rule, so I appreciate that. This next question will begin with Mia. This is kind of a long one, so give me a moment. So this pandemic is a financial concern as well as a health issue. With 30+ million unemployed, most states have adopted some sort of rent moratorium that is expected to be paid back in full once the pandemic is over. However, no doubt if it is a hardship to pay rent now, they won't be able to pay later. Would you support Representative Omar's bill to institute a nationwide cancellation of rent and home mortgage payments for the duration of the coronavirus pandemic? And if not, what would you do to assist people who are out of work for no fault of their own so they don't become homeless?
If I was in office right now, I'd vote for it, yes. Because I expect this pandemic to be over by the time I'm sworn in. We want to make sure that we have a future bill for money set aside to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Currently, the HUD doesn't protect anybody with rent, or like where I am. If you lost your job or part-time job, you're SOL. You can be put out in the street in your car, and that's what's facing a lot of people here today. So yes, I would definitely fully support making sure that these are forbearances or forgiven, dependent on their financial hardship. Every situation is different. Even my student loans, they're pushed back, but some companies are like, why do you need it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. Jennifer, do you need, if either of you at any time need this questions reiterated or reread, please just let me know. Are you good to go, Jennifer?
I'm actually good, but thank you. I mimic Mia's response. A lot of people at the beginning of this pandemic, even people in healthcare, we were talking about a 4-week to 6-week complete shutdown. And part of that was making sure that we were alleviating these debts pretty much equally across the board. That way we were just kind of like slicing out a spot, and then we could pick up and move from there. And I completely believe that that's still something that we may need to do depending on what our second wave of coronavirus looks like. So this is something I would absolutely vote for if I was in office.
Good. Thank you. Next question, Jennifer, we'll begin with you. What are your thoughts and or plans for economic development while still preserving the rural quality of this district? Second part of that question, what will you do to ease the burden on small farmers, give them a fighting chance? That pertains specifically to trade war and the tariffs.
So, the trade war and the tariffs, actually spoke to this not too long ago. It is ridiculous for our leadership to be getting in trade wars that are going to trickle down and unnecessarily affect people who have very, very specific ways of life. A small family farm is usually operating at maximum capacity. We will have certain group farms or larger farms and up to corporate farms that are going to be able to better expand their ability to plant and their yield. When it comes to investing in small businesses, those are the ones I'd actually want to start with. So it's actually perfectly questioned. We have to find a way, and it's going to take a bit more digging. I haven't figured it out yet, but we need to find a way where we can better support the small family farms. A lot of the distributions are based on yield, or based on planting, and that means that someone who is literally landlocked or labor locked and can't do as well, and they have been for years because their plants, they can only plant so much of their field, or they can't buy more or rent more. Those are the places we invest and try and more equally distribute these benefits. Leslie Stahl recently did an investigative report about how these are disproportionately handed out, and if anybody gets a chance to watch that, it's very eye-opening. Starting with those would be a great place for us to start rebuilding our economies. Small business makes up a huge amount of Maryland when it comes to how much business we have here, and trying as best as we can to alleviate, whether it's through additional grants and in some very rare cases additional loans, to try and get them restarted. Do you think that we need a second set of loans that are meant for restarting and a second set of grants for that? Thank you.
My same question. Do you need it repeated, or are you okay?
Sure, let's refresh everybody.
Sure. So the first part of the question, what are your thoughts and or plans for economic development while still preserving the rural quality of this district? The second part of the question, what will you do to ease burden on small farmers and give them a fighting chance pertaining to the trade war.
Okay, well, it's actually about what we give them as a farmer's market, where they're able to sell their product. Currently, they have to give it to a distributor, a wholesaler, a butcher, a factory in order to produce a product to put in our grocery store. Today's grocery store report, the shelves are still empty. There's no poultry. There's no things. Go to Costco. There's limits on seafood now. That's our problem. To make it easier for our farmers in our districts, we need to legalize hemp and other products so that they can grow when they need to, indoors, 24/7, year-round, so that they can make sure that if their community or somewhere else in Maryland needs a product, they can come and find it year-round on our shores. That's the opportunity. That's the investment that we need. Sadly, that is going to have to happen through our governor. At the federal level, we can give them incentives to do it and bring in big corporations to help. But for our local farmers, we need to make sure that their farmers markets are open so that people know where to go, to make sure that their shelves are stocked, to make sure that they survive through this pandemic. If not, they're growing their own food at home.
Thank you. Mia, this next question will start with you. Are you for or against maintaining the Affordable Health Care Act, aka Obamacare? If so, what changes would you make to strengthen it? If not, what would your plan be?
Well, it is currently right now in the Supreme Court. Trump wants to terminate it and give us something else. It's horrible to have an a la carte plan to pay for your emergency care, your vision, your dental, your regular OBGYN care, or any other service that you might need. You might have to pay an extra $5 to $20 per week for. I, as a veteran, am part of a system called TRICARE for Life. It's Medicare. $600 per year, a car payment, a house payment for an entire family for 1 year provides you health care. That is Medicare for all. That is something that we shall give those who want it, those who need it. Those are the ones that we want to have and strengthen on top of the ACA to expand it to, because it is a system that works. What took me 4 years in the VA failed me. What I got out of Medicare was done within 6 weeks. It's a system I can believe in, and I hope others can too.
Thank you. Jennifer, same question. Jennifer is muted.
There you
I
are.
apologize, I muted myself to cough. The ACA, like it or not, has increased coverage, and that's extremely important, making sure that people have coverage. I believe protecting as many parts of the ACA until we eventually get to Medicare for all is a good thing. I don't think that we can wait forever for Medicare for all to pass, and I would think that the pandemic would have pushed more people over to the Medicare for all. I'm glad to see that more people are coming over. It's not enough quite yet, but we're getting there. I have my own plan. It's called Primary Care for All Citizens, and that is to start the core of what Medicare for all is. Start with a rollout, making primary care free and accessible through the Medicare program, starting with folks who are already eligible for Medicare. You would not need anything to go to your doctor except your Medicare Part A card. You would have no copay, no co-insurance, because healthcare really starts with establishing a relationship with a primary care physician. And we're finding that more people are utilizing them appropriately with the ACA. We can take that, start that tenant, and that can primary care for all. After we move it out into the Medicare A population, in about 2 to 3 years, it'll pay for itself. We can then move it out to the pediatric population, and then everybody in between. That can stay as it is, and we can use the ACA to strengthen keeping drug costs down. We for specialist appointments, hospitals, And it helps us kind of create that transition period that I think we really need to get Republicans on board to move them over into Medicare for All faster. Because if we start with the current Medicare population and start expanding their benefits, they're never going to want to take that away. And that's where we truly get to prove the value. Because they look at places in Europe and they go, oh, but it's not the United States. Oh, but it's not the United States. Well, I can already prove with the data in the United States that seeing your primary care physician, which is the central tenet of Medicare for All, reduces hospital stays, you're healthier, and you're happier about it. And that's exactly what we want out of healthcare. That's exactly what we want out of life in general. So being able to do that, and it's fiscally prudent because it saves money, and that's where I would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next question. Jennifer, we'll start with you. What are your regulatory priorities for environmental protection post-Trump era?
We're definitely getting clean air and clean water back on board. This is a health and safety issue because I can't have somebody 3 states away polluting my groundwater because it flows downward into my state and in my backyard. Air quality, air is not just what is literally around you. I can be polluting from 3 states over. Things like that, people tend to compartmentalize and go, oh, my state. No, these are problems that are coming from other states and affecting us. We live in an area where we have a lot of petrochemical plants and things along those lines that do affect, and we have the data that says it affects the health of the community in our areas, even in District 1. So we'll be getting back on board with that. Strengthening our ability to protect federal and expand federally protected lands. Those are places where Mother Nature gets to heal. They're places where they become oxygen reservoirs, which are important for us. So from basic health and safety standpoints, the environment is very important. And I'd really like to see either some sort of new Green Deal or getting back into the Paris Climate Accords. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah.
Well, this is about making sure that we fix the environment. We have to fix what Trump has deregulated. He created a 2-for-1 rule. Basically took everything from the last 50 years and nailed it. We gotta fix it. Our environment. Clean air, just like Jennifer said. We outlined this completely in my platform, miadmason.us/environment. It'll tell you everything that we're going to do from day 1 to day 100 to make sure that we get our environment, our bay back online, the federal EPA back in charge and finding those that pollute our waters, protect our shores, protect our environment, get the fishermen back out there doing their job. Give us the clean energy, give us the clean storage, stop polluting, and get everything else done, and provide us the clean energy, renewable projects that happen, because this is your land, your legacy, and your vote. We're tired of seeing projects delayed that are environmentally enjoyable and helpful and provide us benefit for our future. We got to make this happen. Not for me, not for you that is still living, but for our children's children. Yes, we've heard it, but we still have to make that change happen. And the legislation is there. We just can't keep pushing it back.
All right, thank you, Mia. This next question, Mia, you'll begin. The incumbent has become a brand name in District 1. What kind of reach or influence do you have in order to be able to unseat Andy Harris?
Well, we are part of a coalition called No Dem Left Behind. Also, as an LGBT candidate, I know that Representative Harris is absolutely anti-LGBT. He is absolutely against women. He also doesn't like our women, and apparently he just flipped the pro-choice. So he has a track record of being Dr. No. So we're going to use his history, be nasty with him, because I've used every word in the entire language for both the Navy, the Army, and the National Guard that is super colorful that he doesn't like, but we can be tactful and technical to him because he believes that he's still a doctor but hasn't set foot in an entire district or state or territory anywhere in the United States to volunteer his time as an actual doctor, but yet we can deport them. So we're going to make sure Dr. Harris has his day due come November, down to the last vote. And I want to make sure that we vote by mail this November.
Thank you.
Thank
Jennifer?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. The incumbent has become a brand name in District 1. What kind of reach or influence do you have in order to be able to unseat Andy Harris?
Andy Harris has a brand because he tacks the letters MD on the end of his name. It's a pretty impressive feat. It does take a while to get through the school to be a physician. However, one of the things that you notice is nurses frequently outrank physicians when it comes to care quality and when it comes to who's perceived as ethical and who's perceived as advocating for the patient. In my case, my patient is the entirety of District 1. Recently, he has made this a lot easier with his antics, where I am hearing people who are even Republicans who have mentioned to me, "You're the nurse running, right?" Yes, I am, because they're upset. They feel that his push to open the economy with zero plan happens to violate their sense of security. And that's where we really have him. I've worked with several people downstate at different areas. I'm a member of several different nursing groups. I'm a member of the Society of Cardiovascular Patient Care, which is now part of the American College of Cardiology. I am a member of Occupational Health Nurses Association, a member of the ANC, a member of the ENA, which is the Emergency Nurses Association. So when it comes to communicating with people, starting with the medical field, which are a lot of people who helped to get him in there, they're starting to see a different way. And I can say that definitely because I will admit I voted for him way back when I was extremely naive. So I can definitely say we all can make mistakes and that we can learn from them. And here I am challenging him, somebody I helped vote into office way back when he first beat Mr. Croteauville for that seat. Thank you.
Very good. And let me just say, so far, ladies, you are doing very well, both in time and in the content of your answers. So thank you very much. Another question, and maybe the last question, but if there's time, we'll squeeze in more. Jennifer, we're going to start with you. The Social Security Trust Fund is forecast to run out in about 15 years. What are your thoughts about how to shore it up?
One of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to change how it's paid out. I think that it should start with an earlier payout but at a lower rate, and that as your personal funds decrease, as you're spending them, it should actually increase. So we're going to be paying out a little less, and I'm not talking about anybody who's currently receiving it. I'm talking about a couple years down the line to start this. To start receiving it a little bit earlier. That patterned effect where you're starting at a smaller rate and then moving up will allow us a little bit more wiggle room. I expect a lot of things to be changing because of the coronavirus, so I wouldn't specifically say I'm going to tax or I'm going to do things along those lines. But it's something that we definitely have to look into again. And usually when you see other places such as Europe, when they have a benefit similar to Social Security, they do that as well, where it's a smaller and building up to a bigger benefit. But I'm expecting, say at 60, that you're really not, you're pretty much, still generating income, a reasonable amount, putting away what you want, but you're not going to need a super supplement. By the time you're 95, I expect that you're going to have less of a personal fund to dip into, and you're going to need more assistance from us. So pacing it with where your need is, I think, is important. And that's where also I think we can start to get people into that habit of saving better, which will help us along the way. And it gives us more opportunity to make changes as we need as our population changes. Thank you.
Very well. Mia?
Jason, can you please repeat the question? I want to make sure that I answer it fully for us.
Absolutely. So the Social Security Trust Fund is forecast to run out about 15 years. What are your thoughts of how to shore it up?
Well, we have a lot of issues with that, and we have to make that a full-time investment, especially for companies that pay no taxes at all. That is by far the biggest shortfall everywhere. I was a former business owner and I was like, my employees pay that. And I was like, okay, I thought I was paying taxes as well because if I'm making money, I pay taxes as well. And it was always quarterly. And I was like, that's not right. It should be when I pay my employees as well. But those are some of the small things that have to get fixed to make sure that we fix and make sure that that is an investment for others. And to make sure that we don't take away people's benefits, to make sure that we don't go back into Reagan era policies, to make sure that people are disabled or this or that every 6 months or 6 weeks. You know, we need to streamline their process and application process, which has been done over and over and over again. But hey, here we are. We have to make sure that it lasts for another 100 years. That's what we have to do. So we have to divert some of that national budget to make sure that it isn't below 3%. We have to make sure that it increases by actually investing into it, investing in Medicare, so that it actually is 15 to 20%. Those are our social programs throughout our entire country, and it belongs there. It is an investment in our country, not our military.
Awesome. All right. Well, at this time, we're going to go ahead to the chat room. I see a few questions have come in from both the group at large and the moderators who have sent me some private messages. So if it's okay with the moderators, you can just continue sending me the questions and I'll just read them aloud unless you prefer that I go around the room. But at this point, let's go down to Miss Eunice. You have a question for Liz and Jen. What plan do either of you have to convince rep and or independents, so Republicans or independents, to cross party lines and vote for you? So how are you going after those independents and those Republicans? I'll give you each 1 minute to answer, and Maya will start with you.
Well, I've already outlined the doors. I'm going to go and talk to them, listen to them, find out why they haven't voted in 2012, 14, 16, or 18. We're going to have all the Dems, call them, mail them, tell them that they should have voted so that we didn't end up with Trump. Should have voted so that they didn't end up with Harris, and that it is now time to change that. So make them a first-time voter, treat them like a first-time voter, and invite them out to the club and grow them to become a Democrat. That's my strategy.
Jennifer, same question. How are you what is your strategy to go after the Republicans and the independents?
I have to say, Mia's pretty much nailed it. It's really talking to them. And that's something that we have to encourage the Democrats to do, is to unseat Harris. It's not just me and Mia reaching across party lines to say, hey, let's have a chat. It's about you talking to your next door neighbor. It's about talking to your friends at church and saying, hey, what do you really think about this? I have this crazy sense that the Democratic Party is supposed to be like a family, and that we should be reaching out to encourage other people to feel the same way. Republicans and independents are more likely to vote for us if they feel like they're going to be heard. And we hear all the time, the firefighters union gets canceled frequently when they're trying to meet with Representative Harris. Allison Galbraith, who sadly dropped out of the race, she tells her story about how it took her a very long time to finally get in front of him, to finally talk to him. He shouldn't be so distant.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just letting you know that you're winding down.
That's all.
That's all? All right, very good. This next question comes from Susan Olson. So under Trump and Betsy DeVos, traditional public schools have been decimated. How would you suggest that we improve public schools and benefit low-income kids? Jennifer, we'll start with you for your education policy, please.
I see this partially as a nursing issue. With No Kid Left Behind, we've taken a lot of paraprofessionals and a lot of people who are taking care of what are healthcare needs, but we're putting them under the premise of educational. And I think once we can start to separate that, Medicare for All would make it a lot easier. But we need to really separate the medical needs from those needs to start dumping that money back into the educational system. I shouldn't be paying a person to be providing individual services out of the same budget, healthcare services out of the same budget I'm paying a teacher. The other thing is we're actually, though we're not happy with our educational system, we're higher up than a lot of other states. So it's going to be trying to get a lot of states to kind of commune together and say, are there ways that we can benefit each other to try and save money when it comes to, can we do group trips together? Can, we scrounge a little bit here and there. We already see it with certain schools trying to do it in the same district. We have a lot of middle schools and things like that. And it's just trying to get inventive until we can start really analyzing the policies and getting down to, what else are we putting out? What else are we trying to pull out of that budget that's not an actual educational expense? And how much money is actually going into education of the dollars that are currently supposed to be spent?
Sorry, you were on a roll, so I didn't want to stop you. Man, same question. Can you just talk a little bit about your education policy and how that differs from Trump and Betsy DeVos and what you would do for low-income students?
Well, here's the difference. Betsy DeVos wants everybody to pay for education from basically the time that you're kindergarten all the way to high school. If Trump gets elected again, we're going to see that. They've been pushing this ground roots movement to actually strip away our civil rights, get us to pay for student loans, and so much more. So when it comes to our education, it's on the state and lower levels. And we need to make sure that we invest in the technology. Our Kerwin Commission was just vetoed because of budget concerns. I was there lobbying for this, and I kept asking, hey, have you asked Senator Cardin or anybody else for federal funding on this? What will Betsy DeVos said? And they're like, we didn't ask. If I was elected, I'd see what I can do. I'll go knock on those doors. I'll get you the money that Maryland needs for education.
Thank you very much. This next question, so this is also for both candidates. Harris has a lot of dollars showing up in advertising. How is your fundraising? Is it up to the task of winning? This question will start with Mia.
I think that I have to prove to myself about this and make it happen. And we'll probably see that after the primary. If not, we bow to Jennifer and we support and help her. That fundraising during this pandemic is going to be virtual. It's going to be through hand-picked PACs and calling and texting and everybody else. But right now, we're still grassroots. So every small donation that goes into this campaign goes right back out to support our communities and get everything to our voters because they need to make a decision of who they want for representing District 1.
Very well. Jennifer, do you need that question repeated or are you okay?
Good, thank you. I've pretty much been self-funded, and that's been by choice. My plan has always been to pretty much self-fund through the primaries, and then to continue the fundraising and do it in very specific areas. So it would be, you're spending your $5 to $2,500 for radio ads, very specific targeted things. And that's very important to me. I feel especially, and this happens to be my fiscal prudence part, I am running for a job office, and if you select me that you want me to go up, then we'll talk about pooling funds. But for the most part, I felt that it was my personal responsibility to pay for my job interview up until now. I have some donations of people who wanted to. I've not been pressing for them significantly, but I've handed out over 100 yard signs, and I have a lot of people who volunteer to help, starting to rebuild that volunteer network that I lost when COVID-19 hit. So it's going.
Very good. Sounds like you're both abreast of what you need to do. So this next question is also for both of you. Jennifer, we will start with you. How do you see yourself working with Governor Hogan And what are your top 3 concerns for Maryland? I'll give you a little more time than a minute if you're.
I grew up in a family of Republicans, so working with Republicans is second nature to me. A lot of it is trying to find the common ground, like I spoke to earlier, with trying to get people to vote across the party lines. He is very invested in small businesses in Maryland, and that is something that we are absolutely going to need to press on. He is very devoted to health and safety, and that's something that currently in the coronavirus situation, which we will still be seeing to some effect by the time that I'm in office, and really trying to get the infrastructure back up, whether we're talking expansion of public transit, talking about bridges, highways, and even talking about simple things like making sure that people have access to the internet. I drive down my district and I can't get service on my telephone in certain areas, or I can't get Wi-Fi service unless I feel like I have to, lean over to the left 3 feet. The infrastructure in District 1 needs to improve in that manner, and that is something that Hogan seems to want to invest in. So those are the top 3 for me.
Thank you. Mia?
Sure. So Jennifer answered very honestly and correctly. And those are great things to do because nobody wants to stay here to work. The companies have left. We have to get those companies to invest in the people to stay here to work. That is something that we have to make sure that those incentives that are in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, we tell those employers, don't leave Maryland. Stay here. Get our college graduates, get our high school graduates, keep them a Marylander. That's important. Second, infrastructure. Yesterday, day 1 of the easing of restrictions, backup. Third Bay Bridge coming as an end of a study here in 2021. Infrastructure. 650 miles of fiber optic cable not coming till 2021. Infrastructure, environment, windmill project, part of a coral reef, pushed back to 2023. Mr. Governor Hogan, we can fix this now. You just have to say yes. Well, vote yes. I vote yes. Representative Harris votes no. Kerwin Commission, he vetoed. We're going to have to fight back and get that back in. Thank you.
Very good. So there's a little bit of a question about one of the questions that came in, and the question was posed as this: how about in circles of the State House where relationships are vital? I'm assuming that this is probably a play off of another question that came earlier in the evening. I've been asking for a little clarity, but the submitter hasn't responded to that yet. So if that is your question, I invite you to go ahead and ponder it a little bit and leave it back in the comments. At this point in time, we have not. Sorry. Okay. So, do you have favorable relationships in the State House? So, have you laid the groundwork for anyone in the State House? Do you have favorable relationships with members of the General Assembly? Who do we leave off with? Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
There are few. I keep those relationships private, but it is something that we always make friends. And it's about building what you need and who you need. And if the wheelhouse keeps changing, it's about who is going to be there next. And we just can't continue to have that happen in Maryland or in Congress or in the Senate. So we need to make sure that the representation is right this time.
Well, Jennifer.
I do know a couple of people, and without outing them, because some of them work for the other side, as it were. And they happen to be people I went to school with, which is how I made the first connections, which is always nice. But a lot of them have actually either met me, seen me, or spoken with me over the past couple of years because of my advocacy work. So whether or not they associate me currently. I've talked to them or worked with them in some capacity previously. There's probably about, I'd say, a solid dozen of them that I could probably walk into the office and they'd be like, I know who you are. I'm usually a very quiet person in the background, and they'll be, I pipe in every once in a while, coming to the forefront, something a bit newer for me, but I've had no problems with knocking on doors to get things passed, writing letters, making phone calls, and for the most part, because I'm a nurse and they respect nurses, I usually get heard.
Very good. But at this moment in time, I have not received any additional questions. I'll do a quick round robin with our facilitators. So let me first go to Benita. Miss Benita Buchanan, have you received any questions? Do you have any more questions?
Yourself. Anita, right now you're muted. Unmute yourself. So there we go.
Oh, good. No, I haven't received any. The question that I did have, I had already turned in and it's been answered.
Roger that. Thank you, Benita. Liz.
She's got 2 accounts here.
Yeah, it looks like you're still muted, Liz.
There we go. Let me try that. Oh, it's that one. Sorry. Just got 2 computers here. Not that one. Hey, why don't you go into another one while I unmute Liz?
Sure. Helen Mann.
Go ahead.
Hi there. No, I don't have any additional questions, but thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Joan Roach.
Hi, no, I don't have any additional questions.
All right. It looks like Liz is back up. Hi, Liz.
I don't either. I checked my mail and text, so I haven't gotten anything in.
All right. How about Miss Kitty?
No, I haven't received anything either, but while I have the floor, I'd just like to thank all of the organizers of this forum as well as the candidates for helping give us some food for thought and helping us think about our decision that we have to make very soon. So thank you.
Very well said. Ms. Ridgely.
No, I don't have any questions, but I'd like to say the same thing as Kitty. Thanks so much for letting us join, and I learned a lot. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Now, at this time, candidates, we'd like to give you each a few minutes. Originally, it was going to be about 2 minutes. We'll go ahead and stretch it to 3 to give a nice closing statement. So this would be a good time to think about anything that you maybe wish that you had expanded on a little bit more, or anything that you can think of that wasn't brought up tonight that you'd like everyone to know about you. Jennifer, I believe that you gave the opening statement. So Mia, we'll start with you for the closing statement.
I understand. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming here, bringing those amazing questions to us. It is difficult sometimes to make sure that we answer them to the best of our abilities. A lot of times we're thinking about policy. We're thinking about how we would do it different. But the thing is we've listened. We've came out to the doors. We've provided, what we thought, and we were wrong. And we realized that, you know what? You were right. We are different. Every community is different. The north side, the central side, the lower shore. Everybody had a different need. We want everybody to complete their census so that we can get this district looking right so it's not gerrymandered. Okay? I've gone through discrimination. This district is the result of discrimination, and Representative Harris won and has a grasp on it for a very long time. I'm looking to restore equity and equality. If I've taken on the president and others to fight for equality and get back into the National Guard and to be able to retire, surely can make sure that we do it against Mitch McConnell and definitely fight against Representative Harris. So I thank you and have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much. Jennifer, will you please adorn us with your closing statement?
Let's see, let me find something remarkable. All right, I'm just going to go for something normal. One of my secret weapons is my dad. Growing up in a Republican household, and I get a lot of feedback because being a Republican, I always have my ear to him and his friends because I grew up around them. They feel comfortable talking to me because they're like, well, we know she's going to listen. And just like Mia said, it's about listening. Everybody listens a little bit differently, and it doesn't matter how you listen, it matters that you do. When it comes to being able to wedge the doctor out, you want to talk credentials, we have two very good credentialed candidates, and one of us is going to wedge him out of that seat. It's up to you to decide who you think has the best capability to do that. And to be honest, I'd be more than happy to support Mia if she were to win, and as I've heard her say that she's more than happy to support any candidate that wins because we're going to function as a team. Getting Harris out has become more of a health and safety issue, like I said, and that's the important part. He is becoming more and more radical, and the more he pushes over to that wing, the worse off everyone is going to be. I don't know why he's doing that, but it really feeds very well into our plans, and I think we need to capitalize on that. One other thing that I really didn't get to touch on was the changing of the permits so that ICE can theoretically build a detention center in my district. I am unhappy with that. I do not support that whatsoever, and I think we need to back off with that, and I'm very disappointed in the people who voted, was it 3-1, 4-1, when we clearly don't want it around here. So that would be a huge priority for me, is to make sure that doesn't happen. That kind of is me in a nutshell, and I thank you all very much for having both me and Mia, and I love these forums, so I'm up for any of them. Thank you.
Thank you, and to both of you, I know it takes a lot to wake up in the morning and say that you're going to run, especially for such a big office. It's no easy undertaking. It takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of courage just to do it, and then, it takes a lot of stamina to keep up with it. So, I definitely commend both of you. I thank you both for stepping up to the plate and willing to serve. At this time, I will kick it back over to either Benita, Elizabeth, or Jennifer. By the way, can we just all give like a silent round of applause for Jennifer and Elizabeth? Elizabeth's over there writing away, and Jennifer's made this pretty seamless. So very good job for our techies, everyone that put this together. Benita, thank you for inviting me to come and participate. So right now, I'm just going to shift it back over to Jennifer.
I just want to reach out and just say thank you, everyone who attended today. We had a wonderful attendance of approximately 46 people roundabout. We also, though he's not on now, he's left the building, we had Councilman Andre Johnson, who was dropping along, so it's very kind of him. But I want to go through and just say thank you first to our candidates, Mia Mason and Jennifer Pingley. Thank you so very much for your time this evening. You've been gracious through all of the technology and everything else that we've had. Thank you for just making this possible, trying to put some time into your schedule. We really appreciate it. Next, I want to thank Anita Holland Buchanan, who is from the African American Democrat Club of Harford County. Our moderator, Jason Robertson from Havre de Grace City Council. Our facilitators, Liz Duberbeck, she is from the Cecil County Democrat Club. Helen Mann of Together We Will of Harford County. Joan Fallon Roche of Democrat Women's Club of Worcester County. Kitty Maynard, Talbot Rising. Ladies, you've all been fantastic as facilitators, getting these questions to us in a very timely and seamless manner, so no one ever saw any of the strings. And then to each one of you, please, 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 if you've not gotten your ballot, you should. I've just gotten mine in the mail yesterday. We're planning on doing ours tomorrow. Make sure that you drop it off or mail it in. There are 4 locations across Malfat. You'll find them on the voter website of your Board of Elections. But you want to make sure it's in before the 2nd of June. So please, please, please get everyone out there to vote as much as possible. But also, please, just stay safe, stay healthy, stay, sane. Find whatever way you can. This was a very enjoyable evening. Everyone was wonderful to have one here. I hope to have you to any of our meetings. You're welcome to attend them. They're the first Thursday of every month. Ladies, if you have any meetings that are coming up, feel free to send some information about your club in a chat box there. We'll keep it open for 2 minutes.
All right, will do.
Thank you, every single one, or your websites, ladies, Jennifer and Mia, if you want to put that out there as well, for everyone. I really appreciate that. Liz, did you have anything that you wanted to say, or Vanita? Liz, are you still, you should be unmuted by now, right? Let me just check. There you go. I'm muting that one. Sorry about this. Liz, are you still muted?
I just wanted to again thank everybody. I just wanted to thank everybody. Just a reminder that the videotape of this will be on our website, Cecil County Dem Club, and links to Facebook, and we'll be sending it out also to all the other organizations that were participating today. And share that link widely. So we want to get as many people to know about this forum and get informed of the candidates and their views. Thank you.
Do you have any last words? Yes. So if you're muted, it's on your side. Check the checkbox. Make sure that there's nothing. All right, and thank you very much for all the candidates putting your information in. Thank you very much. So, ladies, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. We'll leave the chat open for just a moment more, but if you wanted to work, please feel free. And that is the end. I'm going to actually recording. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
I'm going to take a picture of that too while we're at it. That's great. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody on the Twitch, the Periscope, the Facebook, and YouTube. Let me tell you why we are fighting for you, and you have a wonderful night. Have a great time. Bye.
First, he came after our immigrants. He came after our national origin. He came after our color. He came after our LGBT community. And then he came after me. And that's where the mistake happened. Don't Ask, Don't Tell ended without including transgendered soldiers. Yep, the Obama administration failed transgender soldiers. It didn't include me until later on. That's when I decided that I needed to come home to Virginia. But I couldn't come home. There was no equality at home. I came home to Maryland and DC, where there was equality. That wasn't true either. I got kicked out. I had to fight. I got on NBC News, fought against that administration, got back in, and then it was like deja vu. July 26th, first thing in the morning, Donald J. Trump said, "We're doing you a great favor. We're kicking you out. We deserve to serve." The men and women deserve diversity in this armed forces.
I'm Ian Mason. I'm running for Congress. Our voters are at the helm in 2020 because our education has failed us. Our infrastructure has failed us. With your driving force, we can fix that, especially in our healthcare, because your vote actually matters and you have the choice in 2020. I'm Ian Mason, and I approve this message.